Join the team. Yes!
Now, the only way that someone else is going to take that for the green player is if they roll their D8 and beat an 8 with a 9 or a 10. No. Hey, this is the McGuire Review, and today we're going to be taking a look at a brand new game that has not hit the market yet. It is going to come at Gen Con, so look forward to it. It is Unearth by Brotherwise Games. Now, you may know Brotherwise Games in the industry for card games like Boss Monster 2, all of the expansions that they have released so far for that platform. It is by far, and to this day, still is, one of my favorite card games. I absolutely love the pixel art. But this review is not about that game. It is about Unearth, their new one. And I will say, this is kind of a new space, I think, for Brotherwise, because this is the first time that we've seen a game like this come out of their shop. And I think they've nailed it right off the bat. So let's look at some stats on this one. It's 8+. It's 30 to 60 minutes and 2 to 4 players for this title. Now, before we get started here, I want to talk really quickly about a giveaway that we're going to do on this. Now, again, this is a brand new game. It has not hit retail yet. It is going to be available at Gen Con, and they are doing a pre-order right now. And there is some things that you'll get through that pre-order. If you do pre-order it, they will include a special little promo pack. You want to pick that up. Definitely worth pre-ordering just for that. So definitely want to do the pre-order to pick that up. Let's talk about the giveaway here before we get started. How this one's going to work is you need to be a subscriber of the channel. So if you're not a subscriber currently, go ahead and click that subscribe button below and you can get entered to win this game. And how I'm going to do this one is it's not going to be a random pool out of my entire subscriber population. It is going to be a pool from the comments below. So it's really easy. You need to be a subscriber of the channel, and you need to make a comment below in the comments about what you like about the game. Now, I'm not going to select my favorite comment. I am just going to use all of those comments. I've got a feature behind the scenes where I can select a random subscriber that has made a comment on the video. So that's how we're going to do it. Make it that easy. Just be a subscriber, make a comment, and you'll be entered to win a free copy of this game shipped to you. And it will ship from Brotherwise Games, so that's where it will come from. So right after the contest is over, which we're going to run through July the 26th, okay? That's going to give us about a week and a half to get in on this. You are going to receive the game before anybody that would be pre-ordering. You're also going to receive the game before anybody that would be at Gen Con. So it is a very exclusive kind of thing. You want to get in on this giveaway. If you can, make a comment below. And remember, it's only going to be out of how many comments are below for the subscribers that we have. So if there's only 50 comments, you got a 1 in 50 chance to win. If there's 20 comments, you got a 1 in 20 chance to win. That's how we're going to do this one. Hopefully, we get quite a few comments because this is an awesome game, and I think you guys are really going to like this. All right, so let's get into it. Let's look at some of the components that we have here for the game, and then we're going to get into the gameplay, which is very light and very simple, but it still offers a lot of fun and a lot of interaction between the players, and I like that. And right off the bat, we can just start with the game is absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at this. Look at the artwork. Look how cool this is. You can see in the video that I got right up over here what this really looks like. I mean, it's almost one of these games where you want to get it out and put it on the table because it just looks so good. I just think they did a great job with the artwork. The colors pop. The colors are right. The style of the artwork is right. It's got an isometric design to it on most of these ruin cards here. I don't know. I mean, you guys tell me what you think. Maybe this is part of your comment, but I think the artwork on this game is fantastic. And I love the dice. I love the components. I love how they went with different types of dice. You have your D6s, you have your D4s, you have your D8s. It's cool. They gave you all these different dice to put in the game, and you generally don't see a game that utilizes dice the way that this game does unless it's an RPG. So it was kind of an interesting spin on the use of these dice. So let's hit the rule book here really quick. It is a short rule book. I'll flip through here. You can see that there is text and color pictures for each one of those pages there, and it's a very short rule book. It's laid out very well. It starts off kind of saying high level what you're going to do on each one of these turns, and then it gets into a little bit more of the meat of each one of those phases that you're going to go through on your turn, which there are only two different things that you're going to do on your turn. What we're going to have right up top here are wonders. There are lesser wonders and greater wonders. There are also named wonders that we have here. So these will come into play during the course of the game as you collect these stones, and we'll talk more about how you acquire those. Then right here along the bottom of the card, it's going to indicate what pattern of stones you need. They go in a 6 hexagon there. What types of stones you need to actually acquire this type of wonder. Or if you're able just to get kind of all of one color, or if you're able to get all different colors, you can pick up, you know, your lesser and greater wonders as well. And those will give you points at the end of the game. So that's one of the things that's nice about this system, is there's a kind of a few different ways to gain those victory points over the course of gameplay. You can either pick them up by going for a strategy where you're trying to acquire these runes here, or you can go for trying to acquire a strategy of getting a lot of stones and building them in a way that gives you multiple different types of wonders that might give you benefits in the game as well as points at the end of the game. So there's a couple different ways to really score that win as you go through gameplay, and I like that as well. You're going to then have your ruin cards here, and I do already have this kind of set up for a 3-player game, and that's why you'll see these little colored stones already placed on each one of the ruin cards. You'll notice on the ruin cards, there is a point value that's at the very top, and we'll just take a look at this purple one here. There's a point value that's at the very top, and then there's a value that's right down here that's actually how many stones are going to be placed on that ruin when it comes into play. And you'll see there are 3, and those are drawn randomly from our nice little Unearth bag here. We'll talk about that in a second because I really like that component. And then this is the point value at the top, which is actually going to trigger once someone kind of wins the ruin. So when we go through a short gameplay, I'll show you what that number really means and how it comes into play. So these are our ruin cards that we're going to be able to acquire over the course of the game. Here's our ruin deck. Those are going to come out and repopulate as ruins are claimed. And then we've got our delvar cards here. And these are really just little kind of action cards you're going to be able to play on your turn. And they do various things, like this one's called Expedition. You may choose where to place your excavation roll after you roll. So it allows you to kind of switch up where you put one of your dies after you roll. Let's look at another one here, Reading the Stones. Give the next die rolled this turn a +1 or a -1. So you do have to play these before you roll your dice, but that will allow you just to kind of up a die or take a die down. There may be a strategy for a reason of wanting to do that. And they got nice little artwork on them. These are really cool little cards as well. And that's something that you're going to play as an option when you start to play the game. So let's hit the Unearth bag here. The other components that you're going to see sitting to the side are things that weren't necessarily used for this 3-player game. So you're going to see the 4th player, the dice for that, the yellow here. You're going to see some extra cards left over because you're not going to use all of the ruin cards, depending on how many players that you do have. And here are some extra leftover wonders that weren't used because they weren't selected in my draw for this particular game. And that's another thing that's really good, is it gives you some variability. You don't really know what ruin is going to come out as you play, obviously, because you're going to shuffle those up. You also don't know which wonders are going to be in play because you kind of randomly draw those. There's a process you go through to get those out on the board, and that can be different game to game. So let's go back here and look at our really cool little bag. You know, they could have said you need a drawstring bag to play this, or they could have, you know, just had you throw everything in a box lid and randomly shuffle it up and reach down and pull one out. But they did include this really nice bag, and it is a high-quality, thick canvas bag. I like it when companies do this. You know, include the component that you need to play the game effectively, and they've done that. They've really executed on that. And then here, you know, they went kind of a further step and had the Unearth printed on it with each one of the dice, which I think was a really nice little touch. And it makes this component feel special, and I really like this bag because it has that printed on it. I don't know, maybe it's not for everybody, but I like it when you put the game name and you put some little custom artwork printed on the bag. It just makes it cooler. I don't know. I like it. Maybe it's just me. So now let's take a look at what you would have as a player in the game, and then we'll go over a little bit of what gameplay would look like. What you do have here is a turn order card, so each player can be given one of these. It's basically like you would find in many games. On one side it has how the scoring will work at the end of the game. So that's always good to know up front before you start to play the game, how it's going to be scored once you end the game. And then on the other side it does have the turn order, where it will list the 2 things you're able to do on your turn, as well as what the excavation phase looks like. And we'll talk about that right now. So when you start the game, you are going to be dealt 2 of the delvar cards, and those are going to be your cards kept secret. They are your cards. They are your hand. Now, I'll explain how you get more of those, because you may be thinking, well, how do I get more of those? Or can I only have 2 over the course of the entire game? The answer to that is no. You will acquire more of these over gameplay, and more than your starting limit of 2. This card that is right out in front of me is your secret ruin card, and each player will be given one of these to be put face down at the beginning of the game, and you will keep that face down. You can look at that to know what it is, but no one else should know what it is, and the reason is at the end of the game you're going to pick that ruin card up, and you're going to reveal it. And for every other ruin card that you have that matches that one, you're going to get some extra points. So that's the purpose of having this hidden ruin. It's kind of your goal for certain type of ruin cards to go for to match this one. Now, there's lots of other ways to get points. Getting one of each one of the ruins will give you a set number of points. So there's other ways to get points, and it will list it here on the scoring card. But this is kind of that big punch at the end to say, wow, I had a green ruin card, and I collected, a bunch of other green ruin cards, so I get extra points because that was my type of ruin. You will be selecting a color and be given the dice for that cover, and you'll have, for that color, and you'll have the 5 dice there. So I am using the blue, and it's kind of I would say this is red. You could call it orange, but the reddish orange, as well as the green, which I'm going to have to say my favorite is probably the blue or the green, but I'm going to have to go with the green because my favorite color is green, and I really like the way these dice are done. I will say, as we're working with the dice here, that these are some fairly high quality dice. This isn't your general cheap run-of-the-mill set of dice. These are, they've got the ghosting in them. They do have the pearl type, swirl that's in these dice, and they do look really good. So just to be a standard kind of die or a set of dice within a game, I think they did a pretty good job on the quality on these dice. So that's it from a component perspective of what you're going to have as a player. Just this little bit here is what you're going to have. Obviously, as you play the game, you're going to acquire more ruins, and you're going to acquire more Delver cards. This is what a turn would look like. Let's say we started here with first person, and this was second person, and this was third player. So it's first player's turn. The first thing that I'm going to be able to do on my turn, if I want, this isn't something that I have to do, is I can play one or more of my Delver cards. And I may want to do that, I may not want to do that. If I don't want to do that, I'm just going to go right to selecting one of my dice to roll and selecting a rune of which I'm going to place that die on. So I'm going to read mine here, and I have an Expedition, and I have a Reading the Stones for this player. Give the next die roll a +1 or -1. Okay, you may choose where to place your excavation roll after you roll. So, and the reason that the importance of why it says after you roll is you do have to choose which die you're going to roll, and you do have to choose which rune you're going to roll it on, and you do have to play a card before you roll the die. So all of these things have to be kind of called, kind of like it is in pool, right? You got to call your shot before you actually make your roll. So that's why Expedition actually comes into play there, is it allows you to kind of change up after you do your roll. You know what? I don't think, it's early in the game. I don't think I'm going to use any of my Delver cards right now. I'm going to keep those right now, and I'm going to choose to roll. So I'm going to have wanted to look at this already, and I've got kind of this deep purple ruin here. And there are some purples that are out on the board, but these are more of the lighter colored ones. These really aren't, it's really not the one that I'm looking for. There's darker ones that are in this deck. So, right now it's kind of I may want to look at these wonders and see, well, what kind of stones are out? And do I want any of the wonders that are out here? Well, here's one that's like 3 of these reds. There's a red here and a red here. Here's one that's got some blues. So, there's a couple wonders out where they've got blues and reds, and there's blue and there's red here. So, maybe I want to try to work for this one. And, it has a value of 15. That's not going to really come into play when it's score time. What's going to come into play is the particular types of runes that I have. But it's got a good, higher number, so it may not bust all of a sudden. And we'll show how that plays out. So I'm going to go for this one, and I'm going to use one of my D6s, and I'll show you why that gets important here in a minute on what type of die that you use when we get to the second player. But I'm gonna use my D6, and I'm gonna roll this. Okay, and I got a 3. Now I will take this die and I will set it on the rune. And now I'm going to look at this number, because if you ever roll a 1, 2, or 3 on any of your dice, you get to claim one of the stones that's sitting on this rune. If there are no stones that are sitting on it, then you would go to the bag and you would do a blind pull from the bag. But since we're starting the game here, we do have stones that are sitting out on these. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the... I'm going to choose this red one, because these different wonders actually provide benefits, especially the ones that are out here. They provide a benefit to you. So this one here, you may give any die roll -1. This wonder is worth 2 points. When you roll your d8, you may give it +1. This wonder is worth 2 points. So you know what? I'm going to change my mind after I read those, because I think I'm going to want that +1 versus maybe that -1. So I'm actually going to go with this blue. Okay, so I'm going to grab this blue stone. And just for example purposes, I mean, generally after I made my decision, I'd probably want to stick with that. I mean, gaming etiquette-wise, but for the purposes of the demo today, I'm going to go ahead and go with this blue. So that is now my stone. I will set it in my area, and then I will start kind of building out my little wonders as I collect them over the course of games. So now, second player. So second player is going to say, you know what? I'm going to go for this one too. Let's look and see what we got. Hey, I've got one of these sand-colored ones, so nothing out yet, so we know that's coming. Again, you'll keep that secret for yourself, but I'm going to go for this one too. So I'm going to roll my D8. Okay, I'm going to roll that D8. All right, I'm going to roll that. Ooh, I got a 2. Ooh, not too good. So I'm going to set that out. Well, you know, it's a 1, 2, or 3. So I am going to go ahead and choose the red. I'm going to take the red one because I did roll 1, 2, or 3. And now we're going to go to the third player. Let's say, you know what, the third player is going to want to go for this one too. And I'm going to take my D8 and I'm going to roll for that. And I got an 8. So I put that right there. And that is the highest number. And it's not a 1, 2, or 3, so I can't choose a stone. For these other players, I've just been kind of moving through, because on this first round, I really am not wanting to play any of these Delver cards that I have. It doesn't say that you wouldn't on the first round. I just don't think that right on the first round I would play one of these. And this kind of worked out in my favor with this 8. So I'm going to look here, and I don't get a stone because it's not 1, 2, or 3. But what I'm going to do at the end of each one of these is I'm going to look to see if it's been able to be claimed. And the claim number is this point value that's right up top here on the card. And this one happens to be 15. So I'm always going to be looking if I've met or exceeded that point claim value. Well, I've got an 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, it hasn't been claimed yet because I haven't hit that 15 or gone above. But the third player does have the highest number, that 8, on this card. So far, once this card hits that 15 or goes above, this green player is going to be able to claim that card because they got the 8. Now, the only way that someone else is going to take that for the green player is if they roll their D8 and beat that 8. Now, you would say, well, you can't really beat the 8 because the highest you can roll on a D8 is a D8. So all you can do is really match it. So this is where it comes into how claiming works. So let's go ahead and go back to the first player now. And let's look at our Delver cards this time. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and play Reading the Stones, which gives the next die rolled this turn a +1. I'm going to play that. Now, I can't ever take my D8 higher than 8, but let's say I roll a 7, it's going to give me that 8. So just for chances wise, I'm going to go ahead and roll that, because let's say I want to claim that. I'm going to roll that. I got a 5, which is going to give me a 6. So the best that I did on this was a 6, and I would place it right there. So at this point, we have gone over the 15, and I was not able to beat that player. So I'm going to look here, and we're going to say, well, that player got an 8. It's the highest die roll. Green player claims it. Now, let's say hypothetically I was able to hit that 8. What would happen then is we would have a tie. And we would look at those dice, and well, they're both D8s, and we both have 8, so that's a tie. We would then go down to the next level of die, which would then be this D8. Well, that's a 2 for the red player. That doesn't really matter because the red player is really not in this tiebreaker. But the blue player has another die at a 3, and the green player does not. In that situation, the blue player would win this card and would gain this card. So technically, anytime you get into a tie on dies, it's tie on the number on a die, it's the winner is whichever die is the bigger die. So if I rolled a 6 on a d6 and I rolled a 6 on a d8, and those were the only two dice that were on the rune and we had hit the claim number, the 6 on the d8 would be the winner. It's whatever the higher die is wins those ties. And whenever you get into those locks where it's like a tie for the die and a tie for the number, then you go down to the next stage, the next die that may be on that rune, and so on and so on. So that's how those ties play out. But we didn't have a die in this case. The green player was the winner. So what's going to happen is, for however many dice are on the card for the losers of that rune, they will gain a delver card. So the blue had 2 dice, so they will gain 2 delver cards. We get those. Green gets the card. Red had 1, so they get a delver card. And then green doesn't get, goes here for red. Green doesn't get anything because they won the rune. So all the dice now will come back to the players. The token will go away into the bag. They do not claim the token. They only claim the rune. And now that rune is the green players. We will now populate a new rune that will come out. Oh, there's one of those dark purples, and this player has one of those dark purples. So I'm going to try to get that. And what's the number of stones it should go on? Well, it says 2 right here on the bottom. So we're going to randomly draw out 2 of these stones and put those right on that rune. And remember, if the stones ever run out, you're just doing a blind draw from the bag. So now we'll do one more play. So let's see what I picked up here. Ancient map, a new discovery. Ooh, give +2 to any die already on a rune. Ooh, that might come into handy when I get into trying to claim this guy. And it has a 13 total, so it's not a really high number. So I'm going to go ahead and roll my d8. I'm going to go all in for that one. And I get a 6. So I'll put that 6 there. And I didn't play any Delver cards. I don't want to just yet. I'm going to save that one maybe for another round. And I can only play these Delver cards when it is my turn. I cannot play them on other players' turns. I cannot play them. They may affect another person as I play them, but I can only play them on my turn. So I'm going to wait for that next turn to be able to play that one there. Next player is going to go, let's see, re-roll something that's already on a rune. I don't want to do that. Nope, none of these cards am I going to want to play right now, so I'm going to roll, and I'm going to go for one of these yellows. So I'm going to go for one of those. I'm going to roll a D8 on that one, get a 5, okay. The third player, I'm going to go ahead and do reading the stones, because let's say I also want to claim this rune, because I'm going to go for multiple colors, and that gives me a +1 on this one, so I'm going to roll that D8, because I'm going for that win. 7, 8, that gives me a crit on this one here. And that 8 and that 6 does take us above the claim total. So at this point, the player now would look, well, they're both D8s, but I got an 8 and you got a 6, so I got a higher total. My die comes off. I claim another one of the Delver cards, and again, our third player claims this rune. And I really needed that rune, but you could see that I kind of held off with one of my Delver cards, hoping that the next turn I could increase the roll, add +2 to any die already on a rune. So that was what I was going to do. I was hoping that someone else wouldn't get that claim total, and I would increase that, but I wasn't able to do it. So that's what happens when sometimes you wait it out and you don't go big all of a sudden. Try to have that long-term, long-game strategy. It might not always work out for you. That's Unearth. This is going to continue on until all of your rune cards are gone and all of them have been claimed. That's going to be the end game mechanic. Now, there is one card that's at the very bottom of this deck, which is kind of an end game sort of card that will come out at the very end. And it's a little bit different. It has a little, this one happens to have a little bit of a higher point claim value. It's also called City of Gold, and this rune is worth 7 points. So this rune alone, if you're able to claim it, is worth 7 points. So it's kind of one of those big cards that comes out at the very end of the game. But right when it comes out and it's claimed, it doesn't mean the game is over. Again, all the runes have to be claimed for the game to trigger endgame. And then at that point, you're going to look, you're going to reveal your hidden rune. You're going to look at all the rune cards you've collected. You're going to look at all of the stones that you have collected over the course of gameplay, add up the wonders and all the points that come with that, and highest point value wins. Now, I want to give you a feel for what this is going to look like as you play the game. So, each player is going to have these little hexagon, stones they're going to have all built out like this, right? And you can build those off one another however you want. Some of them you want all the same color. Some of them you want a certain color. Some of them you want different colors based on the wonders that are out. Now, let's say this one, for instance, right here, it says, well, you can, lesser wonders are worth between 2 and 4 points, and it can be 6 of any color. Or a greater wonder is 6 of all of one type of color. They're worth 6 to 8 points. Well, let's say this is what I collected over the course of gameplay. What's 6 of any type of color? And, for this situation, this College of the Overseers, I actually could claim that because it's 3 blue and then 3 of any color. Well, I have 3 blue and I have 3 of any color. And they don't have to necessarily be right next to one another. They can just be within your set of 6. So you know what? Let's say that happened over the course of game. I could claim this wonder on my turn, and now I get this wonder, and it is worth 2 points in its own. And what you do is you set it right in the center of that little area there. And then now this card is mine. I would have it here for gameplay, and it would then give me this ability. When you roll your D8, you may give it +1. This wonder is worth 2 points. So at the end of the game, you get 2 points, and for the rest of the game, every time you roll a D8, you give it +1. So I just rolled a 7, boom, it would have been a crit, would have been an 8. I rolled a 3, boom, it would have been a 4. Now, you may give it. That I rolled a 3, I could have kept it as a 3 if there was a stone there, or I wanted to draw a stone. Or I may increase it to a 4 if I think that will benefit me to being able to claim that rune. So that's how that works. For each player, you're going to be building out these little hexagon, setups on your turn within your play area that's going to be able to give you that other aspect of ways to win the game point value wise. And that's what I would say I like most about this game is you really can develop strategies to say, I'm going to go for these ruins every time, and I've got a strategy. I'm going to try to roll big. I'm try to get these ruin cards. I'm really going to try to play my Delver cards in ways that give me the optimal ability to lock down one of these, hit that claim value, and win. Or you know what? I'm going to hold off and actually use a lot of Delver cards to give myself -1s because I want to be able to draw a ton of these stones. I want to be able to gain stones over the course of the game and be able to build out the stone structures to gain the wonders. You really can give yourself, early on in the game I found, these extra abilities. And that, I have found is a good strategy is early on in the game going for these stones and trying to gain the wonders that are out here that I like to refer to as the ability wonders. The wonders that are going to give you abilities like this one, where you roll your D8, you gain you may give a +1. That could be very beneficial through the course of the game, especially with these D4s and D6s. When you're rolling these dice, you're trying to then later maybe claim some of these ruins. Because again, it doesn't have to be all in one way or the other. You could build a strategy where you get a bunch of these, a bunch of abilities, and then you come in with maybe a hand of just like, each one of the ruins and get a nice point. Or you come in with a few matches of just the one that you have. I've found that's a good little fun way at the end of the game. It becomes fairly obvious if you're only collecting that type of ruin, but, that's a fun little punch at the end of the game to have all that set up. And it's like, oh, I've got like 8 more points or 10 more points in wonders, or maybe even more. And I've got all these abilities, which don't give you points, but they help you gain ruins. And then it's like, boom, flip over that ruin, and you get extra points with that. So I love that aspect of this game as well. So as you can see, simple game, very easy mechanics. It's definitely a filler. It's definitely a beer and pretzels, in my opinion. It's not something that has a lot of heavy weight to it. But the beauty to the game is it also has a good level of strategy. And it's not just a strategy like you would find in a worker placement or a Euro. It's a strategy that still allows you to add a little bit of luck to the mix with the dice. And I like that. I like games that are strategy-based games that have a light feel that you can bring the younger crowd into, but at the same time, you've got the dice that add a little variability. And I like that. I don't like games generally that don't have some bit of an aspect of chance or luck. Whether it's dice, whether it's a card, whether it's, some type of mechanic, that's part of gaming to me. It needs to have that luck, that chance of variability where, you may have a great strategy. You may think, this rune is mine. I got my D8 left. It's a bunch of low rolls, right? I got this. Boom. And you roll a 1, right? And it's like, it's funny because everybody laughs at you, and it's part of gaming, right? It's part of that fun, of that experience that you go through. It's that piece of variability. And I think this game balances all those mechanics perfectly. So very well done to the designers of this game. Very well to Brotherwise on the publication of this. It's done perfectly. You nailed it, guys. You really did nail it. And this is a first entry for these guys, and I'm so happy for them to see such a solid game to be kind of the first entry into this space for them. So well done. Keep it coming, boys. Everybody else on that giveaway, make sure to make your comment below to get in on the giveaway of this. Again, June the 26th is when we're going to pick that random subscriber. I will announce that through Twitter as well as on the comments, but if you follow me on Twitter, you're going to get the kind of ground zero announcement on that. So make sure to follow me on Twitter. That's where I like to do a lot of my larger giveaway announcements, but it will be in the comments as well, so you won't miss out if you don't have Twitter or you don't use Twitter. This has been Unearth. Look forward to Gen Con 2017. It's the big Gen Con 50 year. I will be there. If anybody's out there and you run into me, stop by, say hi, love to chat. So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team, ring the bell. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.